So what's your take on the singularity in terms of when do you think it's here? Does it scare you? Um, I'm so curious to ask someone like you who's so entrenched in the space.
I mean, I think there are aspects of current technologies that do, raise the hairs on my neck a little bit. I think generative AI is nothing short of insane because now, I think there's probably interviews of me not very long ago saying, well, the one thing AI will never do is be creative. And now here we have Gen AI that, you can describe a picture and a style of art and it will just regurgitate it for you.
Right.
I can't believe that. It's just floors me. And at first I was like, this is impossible. But now I realize that the technology is doing the same thing that humans do, which is, as an artist, you have other artists that you look up to and other styles that you kind of gravitated to, and then you perfect your own skills, and you have little shadows of all of these things in your own art. And that's really what generative AI does. Will it ever create something novel that never existed? I don't know. But it is nonetheless able to, either through large language models or like image generation, like Midjourney, music generation now is possible. And, I think it is still a tool and it's still really kind of regurgitating things. Um, I think that the area of the technology that concerns me the most will be military use, and the idea that, I mean, we all have computers and, phones and stuff, and every once in a while they crash and something goes wrong and you have to reboot. So what happens when a war robot crashes or there's a glitch or someone hacks into it, some unfriendly, um, some, country or individual gets into it, that part's a little scary. When you've weaponized any technology, I think that's what's a little bit creepy. So, when people are all up in arms about, well, you're trying to replace relationships and what are we going to do? Like, that's not the technology you should be scared of, honestly.
Yeah.
you know and frankly, I feel like if people, more and more people opt for these synthetic relationships, maybe the people who are so worried about that and so threatened by that will step up their game a little bit in terms of how we treat each other and how approachable we are to each other. It just feels like in general people are not as friendly as they probably were in the 1960s. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, for sure. I've noticed a difference just in my own, you know, case studies of approaching lots of women and men too over the years. I have my clients do these, I call them social freedom exercises, where they go out and they're just being social and sometimes doing something embarrassing in public, like bowing at people or lying down on the sidewalk in a public place. And, instead of, in the past, you'd see people coming over and be like, are you okay? Do you need help? If a random guy is just lying there. Now, most people just pull out their phone and they take photos.
I know. I know.
So, yeah.
We are a weird species, that's for sure.
But I think it would potentially become relatively normal in a short period of time, to have a doll as a companion. And I think it'll force people to step up their social interactions, right? If that
Well,
becomes
that's kind of how that's exactly what I feel is that, you know, I didn't create the demand for this type of thing, right? I'm just here. It happens to, align with my artistic endeavors. And hey, I made a living for myself. But, at the end of the day, the demand is there. And that's the real question. It's not like, well, why are you making this? No, why are people wanting this? That's ultimately the question that drives it. And so I think the more that people scrutinize that, like the substance of that, and why it's no different than why are people, instead of dating the old fashioned way, why are they swiping on Tinder and doing these types of things? It's because it's hard. The other way is hard. The rejection hurts more, and creating these easy ways. I think people have to learn how to handle rejection for one. I mean, like it's okay.
They need the attitude of your buddy. If you 1 out of 10 says yes, that's a
Yeah,
win.
she said no, or she's otherwise, spoken for. Just like move on. But it's that getting over that initial kind of hiccup of, oh my God, I've been rejected. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that that wasn't the one.
Have you found that there's a disproportionate amount of like male versus female interested in your products? I'm guessing it's more male driven, but could be wrong about that.
It is, yeah, it is definitely. I mean, traditionally speaking, um, male, and then after that, you've got couples actually, who have purchased dolls and robots, and then you also have women. I mean, I've had several clients. I've done custom projects for several female clients who wanted a very specific thing, and we made it for them. But yes, I would say probably 80%, male driven in terms of the customer base.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense that and it'll be really fascinating when you can get the price point down to where
Yeah,
it's easy for
yeah.
anyone to just get
Well,
one.
I think, like anything, it's going to be expensive at first, and then it's going to come down. And as things are easier to do and things are easier to source, and you're able to streamline the process, it'll come down. It's like flat screen TVs. I remember my buddy bought like a 50-inch flat screen, and it was so ridiculously expensive. And we were like, oh my God, look how big that is. Now it's nothing. It's like, well, I have an 80-inch and I got it for $500.
Totally, right?
Yeah, everything comes down. And it will, and it'll be easier for people to get, and more people will wrap their heads around it. And I think society will open their minds a little bit about it, and it'll just be part of what we do and who we are.